Welcome to the wonderful Trafalgar on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal. Just after we moved here from Pietermaritzburg, I bought myself a coral tree for my bonsai collection. Let me tell you its story. Goeiedag, Sawubona, Dumela, and welcome to Trafalgar on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal. My name is Johan Jiffer, and I am here to tell you about one of my favorite trees, the coral tree. In 1849, it was described by Captain Rupert as, at one season its white branches are clothed in green and the other in scarlet. That is such an apt description for such a special tree. As I said in my introduction, it all started just after we moved here to Trafalgar from Pietermaritzburg. My wife and I went to a local nursery, and there we found a coral tree, a beautiful coral tree with a nice thick trunk, because you know bonsai people like thick trunks. I purchased it and took it home. When I got home, the packet that the tree had come in had torn, and I couldn't really see what was going on, but it was a bit of a mess. So I decided to quickly put it into a big flower pot so that it could just settle down. So I planted it into the flower pot and let it grow. When I put it into the flower pot, I would say it was about 1.5 meters high, or about 5 foot. At that time, I chopped some of the larger branches off that wouldn't really fit into a bonsai, kept the main trunk going, and it grew and grew over the summer. Over time, I chopped it down slowly as new growth started coming out to try and just get that trunk line down. I really felt that this tree was going to make a very nice upright tree. Man, was I wrong, but that's another story. Let me tell you a little bit about the coral tree first. There are two main species of coral trees in South Africa. The Erythrina caffra, the coastal coral tree, the Erythrina Lysistemon, the common coral tree. They are very similar, and we will deal with these two together. In Zulu, the tree is called the umsinsi. In Xhosa, it is the umsidsi. In Tsonga and Venda, it is called the movale, and in Tswana, the mopete. As you can see from the many different names for the tree in the indigenous languages of South Africa, this tree is distributed quite widely in South Africa. It is also found in parts of Zimbabwe, Botswana, and even into Angola. The caffra species, however, the coastal coral tree, is only found on the coastal areas from the Eastern Cape to the KwaZulu-Natal. The coral tree is a medium-sized deciduous tree, between 9 and 12 meters tall. In feet, that is 30 to 40 feet tall. The trees have a beautiful light green appearance, with a lighter grey coloured bark, as you can see here next to me. In the coastal forested regions around Alexandria Forest in the Addo National Park, these trees can grow up to 20 meters tall, that is 65 foot. In that forest, this tree is the highest tree except for the yellowwood trees. As you can see from these prickles on this tree, these trees have short, sharp prickles that protects the tree when young. The leaves are compound leaves with 3 leaflets forming the leaf. These leaves can be quite large. This is quite a small one. And the trees bloom in early spring with bright scarlet flowers. As you can remember, I've told you about my coral tree that I had purchased. And I had put it in a big flower pot and just let it grow because it was going to be a beautiful upright plant. Now this clearly is not that coral tree. So we'll continue with the story. As the summer progressed, I had said I took some cuttings off of the coral tree. And as you can see here, there's a coral tree that I planted in this planting. You may also recall that in the Alexandria forest, close to Port Elizabeth, the yellowwoods, which are these trees, are the tallest trees. And the coral trees are the second tallest. So in this planting, I've sort of wanted to capture that type of forest, with the tall yellowwoods, and then we've got some Cape honeysuckle around here, and that's a little num, which is also a tree that will typically grow in a forest like this. Now this is a very young planting, but I thought I'd show it to you just to show you the little coral tree there that comes from a cutting that I took off that original tree. I also wanted to just quickly show you, I've got 4 little coral tree seedlings growing in here. Now these seedlings were planted in about February this year, so you can see how quickly they grow. But let's talk about my other coral tree now. So it was growing in the big flower pot. I decided at the end of summer to repot it, well into autumn. I decided to repot. And I took it out of the pot, and I had a problem. I had a big problem. Because my beautiful upright tree had these massive roots, thicker than my fingers, going down into the soil like that. So that had been under the soil line, so I couldn't see them as the tree was growing so beautifully. But when I uncovered that soil, here's these big, ugly roots, stems, I don't know, growing into the ground. I don't know what to do. I couldn't plant it in an upright position because I'd either have to chop all that off and I'd have a dead tree, or I'd have to plant it with a hole that you could fit the Notre Dame Cathedral into it. I didn't know what to do. I looked at it, I twisted it, and I turned it, and I thought, oh my word, I have a problem. Because I've taken this tree out of the pot, but I don't know what to do with it right now. I'll tell you how this story ends in a short while. But let's first quickly talk about the ecology that the coral tree forms part of. The coral trees are important in the ecology of the areas in which they are found. They provide food and shelter for a variety of birds, animals, and insects. Birds and insects love the nectar. This provides a feast in early spring for these animals. The flowers spear in spring before the leaves, which is a strategy to ensure that the nectar-eating feeders are attracted to it. The flowers are also eaten by vervet monkeys. Now you may not believe this, but just before we did this shot, we had some vervet monkeys in the tree there that, believe it or not, were eating the flowers. Herbivores like kudu, rhino, and baboons eat the leaves of this tree. Elephants and other animals will also tear the bark and eat it. The roots are eaten by bush pigs, and also the brown-headed parrot and other seed feeders eats the seeds when they are ripe. These seeds are also eaten by the developing larvae of winged beetles. Dead trees and branches are also used by birds and bees to make nests, like the black-collared barbet, who made a nest right over there. Man has also used the coral tree in many ways. In our Zulu culture, these trees are of great significance. These trees are planted on the graves of Zulu chiefs. These trees are also planted as hedging plants. Unwittingly, some of the 1820 settlers from England also used the trees in this way. They cut down timber to make a palisade fence out of the wood of the coral tree. Once planted, these took root and started leaving out and making flowers. It must have been quite a spectacle. This story is told by Thompson in the 1820s. The coral tree was also one of the earliest indigenous plants to be grown in gardens and around towns in South Africa. In Thomas Baines's journal in 1848, he describes in Grahamstown, now Makanda, the street is shaded at interval with rows of trees, among which the most conspicuous is the wide-spreading coral tree, Erythrina caffra, which is alternately covered with leaves and rich clusters of brilliant scarlet flowers. The wood of the coral tree is light and cork-like when dry. The wood was used by both indigenous populations and the settlers to this country. Some of the uses that have been recorded for this is the making of fishing floats, troughs, and break blocks. In tribal societies in South Africa, chiefs washed in the water in which the bark had been soaked. The belief was that this ensured the respect of their people. Do you think it would work for modern-day politicians around the world? I know a few who could do with it. I also wonder, do you think it would work for the wife? The bark of this tree was also used by women that were about to give birth to make the birthing process easier. They mixed with other herbs. It was used as an emetic, and the leaves to heal wounds and sores. The coral tree seeds are known as lucky beans because of their bright red color. These beans have been seen as good luck charms by both indigenous and colonists alike. And here we come to the end of our talk about the coral tree. So when I last spoke to you about my tree, I had told you how the roots / trunk / I don't know what you would call it, had been under the soil, made it impossible to plant the tree as a beautiful upright tree. And I twisted and I turned and I looked from side to side. Slowly I saw it. A beautiful line of the tree on its side, growing to the side, looking like a woman with a few extra legs, but looking like a woman reclining. Absolutely beautiful. And as you can see, here the tree is. It is still very young, but you can see these massive roots. Look at how far they came down. You can see why I had a problem. You can see the roots coming down like that. I put the stone in just to give it a bit of counterbalance for it, so it sort of looked like it had been growing over the stone. You see the main trunk line had gone up here, which I had chopped off, and now what was a side branch is becoming the apex. And there you go, what I think is a very nice bonsai, and which I hope to grow over many, many years into an absolutely stunning bonsai. I hope you guys enjoyed this talk about the coral tree and the story of this coral tree specifically. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and join us soon again in Trafalgar on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal for more videos about nature and bonsai.